Sooner fans, Longhorn Nation, welcome to episode 32 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Oklahoma and the University of Texas. My co-host, if you're watching on YouTube or listening, is the very attractive man opposite me, Kevin Miller. I am John Whitson, and we are fired up to talk all things Boomer Sooner and Bevo. And we've been doing it now for 32 episodes. Kevin, the one thing we haven't mentioned too much in these 32 episodes is the singing of the Eyes of Texas. Now we've got major fallout following the devastating loss in Stillwater. Coach Sarkisian did not sing the Eyes of Texas and had to apologize for this disgrace, this behavior, which is borderline reprehensible. What is Texas fan willing to fire him over such a abuse of power?
It's a non-story as far as I'm concerned. Look, it's a tough loss on the road. A game you thought you could win. Probably should have won. You lost it. It's frustrating. You leave. Who cares? I don't.
I think that even that if there really is a Texas fan out there that cares, and I don't know who this would be, but if there really is a Texas fan that is out there that cares, they should care way more about not giving Bijan Robinson the ball more than about Coach Sarkisian singing or not singing the Eyes of Texas after a loss like that occurred on the road.
Seriously, we've got bigger things to worry about.
I mean, if I'm sorry, but see, this is the problem. This is indicative of Texas as a program that he's even apologizing for this.
Yeah, well, it became a bit of a thing under Tom Herman, right? So maybe he figured it's better just to jump in front of it now before it becomes an issue with him. Maybe he was told to. I don't think he really cares either. But, saying apologizing for leaving is not a big deal. But again, it's not a big deal that he left either.
His apology should
completely non-story.
His apology should have been, I'm sorry for calling 49 pass plays with a quarterback that had a 2-5 completion rating versus giving the ball to the best two running backs in the country and the best backfield in the country.
I agree.
And for losing another 10-point lead in the second half, 10-point lead at halftime against a ranked opponent on the road. That's the apology. It's so weak that Texas fan even cares, A, and B, that he would even apologize, and C, that he's not even apologizing for the right things. Say, I'm sorry for losing. I don't know. The story just bugged me.
I don't think very many people care, honestly.
Okay. Well, I hope
I certainly don't. I couldn't care less.
Along the lines of inane things that are going on, how about Texas A&M? Is there anything better than them getting in trouble and just doing stupid stuff? Has Jimbo lost control of the locker room, Kevin?
It certainly seems that way. If what they're reporting is true, players allegedly getting high in the locker room after a loss
on the road. I've heard conflicting reports that wasn't true, but then people came back out and then said it was true.
It can't be, right? I mean,
well, here's the reality, right? This is one of those stories. Texas A&M is in the predicament or this circumstance that one of these stories is believable, because if you heard this in any other locker room, including Lincoln Riley's USC, any other locker room, somebody would be suspended for the rest of the year, and it would be like, what? But with A&M, you're like, yeah, I can see it happening.
Yeah, makes sense.
It makes sense. With as much money as these guys make, players going to play,
Here's the problem with A&M is that they have no power in this thing. All the power is with Jimbo. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to Jimbo Fisher? You're going to fire him and pay him $85 million to leave? Okay.
Well, and then the other power dynamic is with the players that are now being paid. Yeah. Right? So the players are like, what are you going to do? Suspend me? All these boosters are paying me $1 million+. And by the way, you've got to convince recruits that this NIL money is a real thing. So you can't just like take it away.
Why are we only hearing this with them though? Right? Because everybody, not everybody, but most good players are getting paid NIL money, right? Texas has players, OU has players that are making NIL money. Why is this only a thing, at least of what we're hearing with them?
They're
Why aren't we
losing
hearing about things like
because
this?
they're losing.
Yeah.
Because they're losing, and they're losing with superior talent, and they're losing with superior resources, and they're losing in a superior conference. And Jimbo Fisher, by all accounts, should be a superior coach, and he's not. He just simply isn't. It's all on Jimbo Fisher. Absolutely.
100%. First of all, his offense is horrible, right? And this is his offense. He's the one designing the offense. He's the one calling the plays. Can't even blame an OC. So can they convince him to give up play calling duties and to bring in a new OC?
They need to. They have to. Right? I mean,
and then what if he says no? What are you gonna do? He has an $85 million buyout. $85 million.
I don't know. Here's the problem, Kevin. As we transition into games coming up this week, their bigger issue is they have Ole Miss on Saturday. And here's the deal. We're going to talk about lines now. Ole Miss is only a 1.5 point favorite. That is shocking to me. This is an Ole Miss team that only has one loss on the year. They've been playing really well. They've beat a lot of good teams. A&M is reeling by all accounts. And Vegas is only saying Ole Miss by 1.5.
You know, I wonder, has that Ole Miss offense maybe not been as explosive? Because what did they end up scoring? 20 against LSU last week?
Well, maybe not.
A&M has played good defense. Their offense has been completely abysmal, right? But maybe it's something with that Ole Miss offense that Vegas doesn't love. That's the only thing that I can think of.
Tonight, we're recording on a Thursday night, folks. Tonight, you have Utah on Thursday night is a 7-point favorite at Washington State. See if Utah can continue winning. I think they had a bye week after their big win against USC. The 11 a.m. kickoff, the big noon kickoff, is Ohio State, 14.5 point favorite at Penn State. I know that the Michigan State game is the primetime game. And I know that Fox has the right to pick the 11 a.m. game. But man, Kevin, this just feels like a primetime game to me. I don't understand why this
would be a whiteout. It's got to be a Penn State whiteout. Yeah.
Absolutely, it should be a whiteout.
Folks in State College aren't happy about it. It was the same thing with Texas and Alabama, right? That should have been a ABC primetime game.
All day. Now, when we go to the SEC, is that, I know that we'll probably still have 11 a.m. games, but those will not. Is there any chance that those are going to continue to be a prime window for us, or is those going to be the lesser games?
I don't think so, because that's Fox's deal, and Fox right now doesn't have any kind of deal with the SEC. It's with the CBS and ESPN, and I believe it's going exclusively to ESPN here in a couple years. So yes, I don't think so. I think it'll be more prime time, at least for the
ESPN. Yeah, they're not going to try to go up against Fox, are they? On their big noon kickoffs, they'll put their other games at 2:30 and 7, right?
Yeah, they're fine with that, and they'll still put. I mean, they'll put their games at 11 o'clock, and still, like the Red River Shootout will be on ABC at 11 some years, like this year, and it'll usually have more viewers than whatever game Fox is showing. So I don't think they are too concerned about it.
It's just I don't know. I never thought I would be this caring about another team's time slot, but it's just frustrating. Like I get frustrated with these 11 a.m. kickoffs. It's hard to watch them sometimes. Like some of us actually have lives out there, and 11 a.m. kicks get harder and harder to watch. This OU game, I'll probably be watching it on a phone from a soccer field. Where if it was a primetime game, now I get it. Oh, this Oklahoma Iowa State does not deserve to be a primetime game. That's not what I'm talking about. But just the inconvenience of 11 a.m. kickoff just sucks.
Yeah.
Big 12.
I will say this though, real quick. Before, the one thing that the Big Noon Kickoff has done, because you remember back in the day, even like 10 years ago, the 11 o'clock game would be some obscure Big Ten game with teams nobody cares about.
Yeah,
You don't want to start
Purdue and Rutgers or
Northwestern.
something.
Yeah, a game that nobody cares about. It's hard to watch. There's no good offense, so that has helped with that, and that's what they were going for with Fox. For the most part, I think it's worked.
I don't know. I'm sure it's worked. I'm sure it's worked for them. It hasn't worked for me, Kevin. It hasn't, and that's what I'm talking about. TCU 7.5-point favorite at West Virginia. That line is surprising. West Virginia is not that good, and TCU is undefeated, only getting 7.5 on the road in Morgantown. Notre Dame at Syracuse. Syracuse is 2.5-point favorite. The game of the week in the Big 12, Oklahoma State and K-State. K-State is a 1.5-point favorite, but Adrian Martinez is still a question mark.
Correct. I think that's what it comes down to.
Have you seen anything or read anything different than he might play?
And they're not saying. They don't do injury reveals. I think everybody else is catching up to them when it comes to that. They don't talk about injuries, so.
Oh, is that an old Snyder move? Did he?
Correct.
Oh, well, it's frustrating.
So we'll know Saturday when they kick off. I will say this though: Oklahoma State has had 2 really tough games back to back.
Yeah.
2. I mean that Texas game was tough, and that TCU one before that. Those are 2 tough games, man. So they're kind of in a gauntlet right now. Like we talked about the 2008 Texas team with that 4-game gauntlet. It's hard to go through all those unscathed. So. I don't know. I think they're right for the taking.
The biggest cocktail party of them all, Florida and Georgia. Georgia's 22.5-point favorite. Kentucky and Tennessee. Now, a lot of people are saying this is Tennessee's week to fall because they had Alabama with the ginormous win, and then they played UT Martin, and which just didn't have any business being on the field with Tennessee. But now they're playing. An in-conference, in-division rival and a pretty good team in Kentucky. So that's something to keep an eye on. Everybody's favorite USC Trojans are 15 points at Arizona. Kevin, it's a bye week, so we're going to pick the Oklahoma game. It's 1.5 point. We'll pick that game after we do the preview. But what couple games jump off the page at you for us to pick this week?
I like the K-State and Oklahoma State one.
Dude, I want to pick that game, but I hate the line on that because it's not knowing if Adrian Martinez plays makes all the difference in the line to me. Yeah. Because if Spencer Sanders plays and Adrian Martinez doesn't play, to me that is an easy pick. If Adrian Martinez plays and they're at home and those factors that you talked about, hard loss at TCU, hard win against Texas, I would and K-State's at home, I would tend to lean K-State. Where are you coming in at this?
I like K-State at home.
I can't pick the Pokes. I'm going K-State as well. I can't pick the Pokes. Adrian Martinez, you better play, buddy. You better suck it up. It's weird though because when he got hurt in the TCU game, if you can remember that from a couple weeks ago or last week, it was like he was still on the sidelines, still had his helmet on.
Yes.
It was very odd.
I don't even know what happened. I don't even know what the injury was. But by the time I put the game on, he was already on the sideline. So I never saw the injury. I don't know what type of injury it was. But yeah, he was still on there almost playing like the backup quarterback, helping call in plays and communicating with Will Howard, the backup quarterback. So
yeah, it was very weird. Okay. I feel like we've picked Kentucky a couple times. You know what? We picked A&M. We're starting to see some teams that we've picked before. That's okay. Let's do Kentucky at Tennessee. I like it. I like this. I like the Josh Heupel story. Kentucky at Tennessee. Tennessee minus 12 over Kentucky. For my Aunt Emily in Kentucky, I'm going to go with the Wildcats.
Okay.
To cover, not to win. To cover, not to win.
Same thing. I got the exact same thing. I got Tennessee winning the game, but not covering.
Kentucky's got a really good defense. Their quarterback, if he's back,
he's good. Yeah, Will Levis.
He's good. I think Tennessee's the better team, and I think they're going to win. I think this game being at home is really important for them because they'll have Neyland Stadium behind them. But I think Kentucky can play them really tough, and I think they can keep it within the 12.
And I'm happy to see Tennessee back, by the way. I like seeing that.
They're one of the, we've talked about this, teams in orange that I can't hardly root for any team in orange. I don't know. I think it's because they're creamsicle, you know?
Yeah.
And I've always liked creamsicles. Like, they're probably my favorite ice cream truck ice cream.
Okay.
Treat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
We saw an ice cream truck the other day, me and my daughters, and but it wasn't making stops or anything. They've heard of ice cream trucks like in fairy tales and television, but they've never actually got to buy ice cream from an ice cream truck.
Really?
This was a deal in San Antonio. They had ice cream trucks
everywhere, every neighborhood.
You heard the sound going around. You ran outside.
Yeah,
you grabbed whatever change you had, and you ran outside. And I always got a creamsicle.
50 cents. Yeah, you had enough.
What'd you get?
Something.
What'd you get?
I like the strawberry shortcake bars. Remember those?
Listen, I did not know you were going to go that way. That is exciting. I had you pegged for the ice cream cone with the peanuts on top, like the peanuts and chocolate.
The drumstick.
Yes, the drumstick. That's what I had.
I was a fan of that too.
Yes. Well,
yeah.
Let's face it. We were fans of. I mean, there's not a lot. I also like, while we're naming favorite ice cream truck ice creams. In second place, with my second draft pick, I take the Bomb Pop, red, white, and blue.
Oh yeah, especially on a summer day.
And then the third one, this might be a dark horse. I don't know. You tell me. But the chocolate banana chocolate.
Okay.
I know it's kind of.
I never had it.
You never had that one?
I don't think so. I've seen it, obviously, but yeah.
I think you can get it at 7-Eleven still, like in their little freezer deal. It's fantastic.
There you go.
Wow, that was a little trip down San Antonio memory lane. Kevin, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Brown O'Haver. Brown O'Haver are public insurance adjusters. They work for the insured, not the insurance company. They routinely get 30 to 40% more for their clients than those clients that work on their own in settling insurance claims with their insurance company. These are property claims that occur to houses or businesses, wind, theft, flood, fire, whatever the case may be. Anytime you have to file an insurance claim, give Brown O'Haver a call, 405-735-5510. If it's something we can help you with over the phone, we absolutely will. If it's something you need to hire us for, we'll let you know and we'll get right to work. It's our job to get you paid more money for your insurance claim and to get you paid that money more quickly. Kevin, you have been with Brown O'Haver for 5 years.
5 years, yes, sir.
How many times have you heard from our clients live and in person how important our service has been to them?
Countless. I've lost count at this point.
I know. And it's really cool because it's really cool when a client comes in and is so thankful for what you do. It makes you happy that this is the job you have, if that makes sense. Because so many jobs are thankless, working for the man in a corporate drone kind of world, and you never really know what that impact is. And even if there was an impact, it doesn't have the help somebody at their core impact, I think, that Brown O'Haver does. And that's what we get excited about at Brown O'Haver. And that's why we're excited to always take on new claims, always fight for our clients. And that's what I get excited about. And I also get excited that they support and sponsor and provide for the greatest podcast in podcast history, the Bevo Podcast, where they talk about all things Oklahoma Sooners, University of Texas. But this week, it's a bye week for Texas, so we're talking exclusively Oklahoma, Iowa State. Kevin, I started looking up some stats. All right. Iowa State has the best defense in the Big 12 Conference. They're giving up 289 yards a game. That's against an Oklahoma offense that's third in the Big 12 that's gaining 472 yards a game. So you've kind of got strength on strength going up against these two teams. Conversely, offensively, Iowa State is the worst in the Big 12. and they're attaining 370 yards a game. Oklahoma has allowed 447 yards a game. So that number is not nearly as dramatic as the defense for Iowa State and the offense for Oklahoma State. Outside looking in, Kevin, where do you see the advantage, if any, for Oklahoma or Iowa State?
This is a intriguing matchup, right? Because that I can tell you, this is, first of all, I think this is the first team that we have both played. You know what I mean?
Yes. This is the first crossover
this is the first
game.
common opponent. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm really interested to see how OU matches up with them. That defense is legit. It is legit. We talked about this. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about this before, but since we're now doing it on the Oklahoma preview for Iowa State, people have constantly referred to this as drop 8, rush 3, or rush 3, drop 8. Is it that simple? I guess what I'm looking for you is I'm looking for a schematic breakdown of why this defense works so effectively and gives teams, specifically Oklahoma, but they gave Texas a hard time too, gives teams like Oklahoma such a hard time.
Well, they used 3 safeties, first of all, right? And they started this, I believe they started it, the game that they beat OU in back in 2017.
Okay.
They came out with this kind of, they call it the flyover defense. So they have 3 safeties on the field. So that eliminates the deep shots that OU and Texas likes to take, especially the deep post route. It eliminates those. But the way they use their safeties, they're deep enough to where they can cover the deep pass, but also they have them almost start the plays flat-footed so they can make the decision on if it's a run or a pass, and they can close quickly to support the run.
From an Oklahoma standpoint, or to make kind of a connection to OU, is that similar to having like 3 cheetah positions?
Something like that, yeah.
Because
like that. Yeah, they're very versatile.
It's always blown my mind that Oklahoma historically. Now, there's been years, so I don't want to get off in the weeds. It feels like, right? It's a feeling. People can come back at me with some stats or whatever, but it feels like we've always had a hard time running against Iowa State.
Yeah,
and it
they're
doesn't.
Always big and physical up front too.
But it's only 3 of them though. So why is that so? How do they make that so hard? All with the safeties coming up?
Yeah, and their linebackers play well too. They always have good linebacker play.
Okay,
they're tough, man. Now listen, Texas was able to do some things against them in the running game this year. In their game a few weeks ago, they were able to constantly keep feeding the backs, and they were picking up yardage. They just weren't scoring a lot.
So Eric Gray is leading the nation with 7.2 yards per carry, which makes the most sense. I mean, I've been an Eric Gray fan since the beginning. Everybody on the BPP, everybody on the BPP knows that I've been an Eric Gray fan. I can't even name another OU running back, to be fair. So this is all bearing out exactly as I said it would. And so, but in all seriousness, you're saying they gave up some yardage. If they stay committed to the run, can he approach that same yards per carry? I mean, I know that could vary a little bit, but
he'll get 7.1.
But can he be efficient? But can he be?
Yeah,
they can be efficient. They just got to stay committed to it.
Correct.
My other question then is: you talked about the deep pass. Levy and Dylan Gabriel have really they like that play, right? And they target Marvin Mims most of all with that. Mm-hmm. Is this something where they're going to both have to be really patient with their play calling and patient with their decision making and take those underneath routes? Or if they can commit to the run, can they somehow, is it possible to suck those safeties in and go ahead and beat them over the top?
I think it's possible for that. But you have to stay committed to the run. You're gonna have to wear your hat.
Did you ever get Xavier Worthy behind their defense?
Yes. And he had 2 touchdowns. Most of them, though, were both red zone touchdowns.
Okay.
So you can hit him in the red zone for touchdowns, too, throwing the football.
All right. What makes me nervous, though, man, is I kind of think that what we'll see offensively is what we've always seen in the OU Iowa State games, which is the offense is going to play good enough to win the game. Okay. Now, what that means kind of varies from year to year. But I think in this case, I think you're going to see somewhere between 24 and 28 points scored by the offense, which against a team that is so bad offensively, that should be plenty to win the game. Okay?
Agreed.
The problem I've got is OU is, though they're playing the worst offense in the Big 12, and we've talked about the fact that their schedule has been front-loaded, right? Everybody's talking about we've played the harder teams first, okay? Except for Oklahoma State. We've played TCU. We played Kansas. We played Texas. And Kansas State, right? So we've played all these harder teams. But here's the problem, Kevin. The 9th worst team in the Big 12 is Kansas State offensively. The 8th worst team is Kansas offensively. And the 6th worst team is Texas offensively. So it's not like Oklahoma has played offensive juggernauts in their current in the teams that they've already played. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect
sense.
sense.
The only team that approaches that is TCU. TCU is the number 1 ranked offense in the Big 12. They're averaging TCU averaging 522 yards per game, and Oklahoma let them get 668 on them, which is just a staggering number. K-State is averaging 401. They got 509 against OU at home. Kansas is averaging 419. They got 430, so that's about right. But then Texas is averaging 444, and they got 585 against Oklahoma. So we can't simply look at Iowa State's past performance and guarantee that Oklahoma is going to have a shutdown defensive performance on Saturday, can we?
You can't. No. And here's the thing. Their passing game, right? Hunter Deckers struggled a bit this year, but when he's on, he's effective. You saw the Texas game, right? I mean, he had his best game of the year, over 300 yards in Austin.
And from what I understand, it's related to the passing game indirectly, but I think it affects whether Hunter Deckers is going to be able to take advantage of some things. Is I guess they're getting running backs back that they haven't had.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, so I think they're going to get 2 running backs back that they haven't had. So I got to tell you, I'm not feeling warm and fuzzy that OU is going to go up there and somehow shut them down. Now, I think having a bye week helps. I hope getting Billy Bowman helps.
What have you heard with Billy Bowman?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. That he's progressing. Okay. That, he's progressing and day to day, and hope he is back in the lineup. But the problem is, what's that?
I said it'll help having him out there. Tremendous.
Oh, dude, it will. It'll absolutely help. And the problem is that it causes other players to have to move over there, so it creates depth issues, and it's just it's not a great situation. I think the bigger, and then I don't know if it's bigger than not having Billy Bowman, but the other factor is going to be pressures on the quarterback. We've got to get the quarterback pressures coming from Ethan Downs, Reggie Grimes, R. Mason Thomas, all these guys that were really good early in the year and haven't been good since. We've got to get back there. The thing against Kansas was the turnovers. It really, really allowed us to jump ahead of Kansas and then stay ahead of Kansas. So turnovers would be huge. Pressures on the quarterback and getting Billy Bowman back. Those are the 3 things I think that would make me feel a lot better about Oklahoma's chances in Ames.
Yeah, and Deckers will throw you a couple. I mean, Texas turned the game around. They were about to go down 14-0, and we picked them off in the end zone. Right? And then, of course, the fumble late in the game.
What are his stats on the year? How many quarterbacks? I mean, how many? Let me see. I'm pulling it up.
He's got like 7 or 8.
Yeah, I mean, look. Yeah, he's got 7. He's got 7.
13 touchdowns, 7 picks so far.
He doesn't have a great QBR rating. He does. He gives the ball up. He's not taking care of it. It's just something that we've got to work on we've got to get the pressure on him and force him to, put up some balls that we can make a play on.
The biggest question for me, though, is can you cover Xavier Hutchinson.
Oh,
Because listen, he is their only real threat. At least coming into that game against Texas, we thought, okay, we cover him, we're good. Well, we couldn't cover him at all. And it was clutch moments, third and long, and he would still somehow get open. They move him around, they do a good job of finding matchups, putting him on, safeties and linebackers, and he's a physical guy too. So that's my concern for OU is who do you have that can cover him? Texas didn't have anybody.
Again, it speaks to the need to have Billy Bowman because I think we moved Key Lawrence there, and he saw a lot of Billy Bowman, so that gave Woody Washington a chance to line up against a guy like Hutchinson. I don't know. It makes me nervous because what's always frustrating me about Oklahoma is allowing those players to beat you, right? Because you know where they're going, and they still manage to get open, and it's just incredibly frustrating. It's like there are 4 or 5 other eligible receivers on this play. Can we make somebody else make a play?
Yeah, and this kid, the last 3 games, right? 13 for 101 against Kansas, 8 for 100 against K-State, and then 10 for 154 against Texas. He's a good player, man.
I mean, those are Marvin Mims numbers, right?
Yeah. I mean, these are big time numbers.
Big time numbers in an offense it's terrible. So that it's coming. I mean, when you say 150, when you say that stat right there represents 40% of their offense over the last 3 games.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Let that sink in. From a receiver, not even a running back, 40% of their offense is coming from one guy. So we've got to figure out a way to bracket him, do whatever the case may be. And I don't know. The thing is, there's just a lot of things that I want to see from our defense. I want to see us get off the field on 3rd down, pressure the quarterback, get some turnovers.
They also got this Jalen Knoll kid who I wasn't familiar with, and he went out and caught 6 for 94 against Texas with 2 touchdowns.
You're right. I'm going to tell you, you're right. Now that we know what this common opponent deal is, it's going to be really fascinating to watch us break these teams down because I wouldn't have known that guy either. But now that you mentioned it, he did, and I don't know, man. It's the thing with Iowa State is they're 0-4 in conference. Okay, but those have been incredibly close games. They're a well-coached team. They've kept everything right there. And it's not like Oklahoma isn't 1-3 in conference. It's not like we're game beaters. This is not the same OU team going up to Iowa State. The -1.5 line really freaks me out, man. It really freaks me out. And as I'm talking about it, I don't know what I'm going to pick. I'm going to let you make the first pick. What do you pick? 1.5 point favorite Oklahoma on the road at Ames.
I'm going to pick OU to win by a field goal.
Wow.
I'm going to say 30-27.
My brain says to pick Iowa State. Because I can't get games like K-State and TCU and Texas out of my head. Like I can't get those losses. And to know a team this is Iowa State's, this is their bowl game. Right? And it's really their only chance of getting a bowl game. They've got to beat us. But they know they've had our number. They know they've got that they can get us while they're down. Matt Campbell knows how to scheme against Oklahoma. It's at home. It's an 11 a.m. kick on the road for us, which means it's hard to wake up for. We're both coming off a bye week. Iowa State.
Okay.
Iowa State to win. Probably the same score. Probably the same score that you just said, only in reverse. What did you say, 30-27?
Correct.
I do not want to pick it in my heart. I really don't. There is a path for OU winning the game, but I'm going to go with my brain and what my eyes have seen from Oklahoma and hope that I'm wrong.
We'll be back Sunday to recap it.
Well, I got to tell you, this is weird for me, Kevin, because when you're doing a podcast, you want to try to like have some kind of credibility. You know what I mean? It's like so easy. It's so easy just to pick OU, like when you're just hanging out with your friends, like, oh, OU's gonna kill him. Oh, OU's gonna be fine. Like, oh, but like, I would hope that our listeners can appreciate the fact that I'm trying to be intellectually honest when I'm making picks like this. But I got to tell you, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
It sucks. Yeah. Okay, let's shift to the University of Texas. Last week, we talked about Oklahoma and what their prospects were for the Big 12. You've had a week, or you've had 4 or 5 days to digest the loss at Oklahoma State. You're going to have a bye week this weekend. You're going to kind of see what happens.
Real quick, but keep going.
You're going to have Oklahoma State play Kansas State. That's going to give the Big 12 a much better picture as to who could play in the championship game. Does Texas still have a chance to get in the Big 12 championship?
They still have a chance, but it's slim. And it's fading. You know, they're going to need some help. They're going to have to win out and need some help. I don't see it personally. I don't see it. From what I've seen from this team so far, I still think they have another loss in them.
Well,
look, they still have the best teams on their schedule left.
Yeah, the problem is going to be the K-State game.
Yeah.
I mean, but you really can't afford a loss at TCU, but you at least have TCU at home. K-State's on the road, right?
Correct. They go to K-State next weekend.
So regardless of what happens to K-State this weekend, if K-State beats Texas, it is mathematically impossible. I mean, I guess any more loss makes it impossible, but I don't know, man, because Oklahoma State has the tiebreaker. It's just, I think it's really hard. I mean, but I do kind of like Oklahoma. I find it hard to think that you can get to 9 wins. You know?
Yeah, I mean my prediction for the season at the beginning of the season was 8-4. For this team, right? And even that is going to be tough, right? I mean, think about it. At K-State, that's a tough place to play. And Steve Sarkisian has earned no benefit of the doubt at all when it comes to winning games on the road. Okay?
Yeah.
Then you've got TCU. They've got one of the best offenses in the country, right?
Yep.
So even if Texas plays well, that's going to be a really hard game, right? They've got weapons all over the place, and they've got a great scheme. For all we've said about OU's defense, right, and they've let up a lot of big plays, but the TCU game was the only game that I can remember where they were just guys running wide open.
Yeah.
Like, even against Texas beat them because I thought Texas had better matched up well. But there were no breakdowns like that. We didn't see guys running just wide open down the field like we did against TCU. That's a really, really good offense coming into Austin.
And they're real quick on TCU, they're just playing with no fear. They get down 2 scores. It's like of no concern to them. Yeah. I mean, they've come back from everything this year. And so going down to Texas, well, first of all, they haven't been scared of Texas in years. I mean,
not since they got to the Big 12.
Yeah. Like playing Texas, I don't know what it was like in the old Southwest Conference days, but playing Texas in the Big 12 it's a non-issue. There is no underdog factor there. And so geez Louise. But anyway, okay. And then you're going to Kansas, right?
To Kansas, right? Yeah. And with our luck, with Texas luck, Jalen Daniels will be back.
Yeah.
With our luck, right? We'll get to play against him and chase him around, which nobody has been able to corral him so far. I guess Iowa State did a pretty decent job of it, right? But overall, they've been really explosive offensively, and they're not scared of Texas. We saw that last year. They went and beat them in Austin, right?
And then you end with Baylor.
Yeah, you know Baylor's always tough. So listen, it's a tough stretch. From what I've seen, I don't see it. If they go 3-1 down this stretch, I'd be really happy. Really happy. And then finishing the season 8-4 to be exactly what I had predicted before the season started.
It's probably more reasonable that they go 2-2 though, isn't it?
I mean, yeah.
And maybe even beat I could even see a scenario where they beat K-State and Kansas. Like those are the two teams where I could see them beat, but I just don't see a scenario where they beat TCU. I mean, TCU is really, really good this year.
They are really good, really good.
I don't know, and it's fascinating to watch, and it's going to be interesting to see how Sark does it and how Sark comes out because we talked about this with Oklahoma. Recruits are hanging in there with you guys, and these close losses that you are suffering, I don't think is hurting your recruiting all that much. Is a 1-3 ending? Does that do anything to recruiting, or are we still feeling really, really good about?
Okay, I feel good overall, but there are a few guys out there who I think are not 100% solid, and some good players. Right? They've got a corner, Malik Muhammad from Dallas. He's one of the top corners in the country. He's committed to Texas, but I know he has a scheduled visit for Alabama, right?
Oh, wow.
And he's also considering visiting A&M. We've got a safety named Derek Williams committed. He's from Louisiana, right? He's committed to us. But Alabama's recruiting him hard too. And now he wasn't considering LSU, but look how their season is turning around.
Yeah.
Right? And he's from Louisiana. You can never bet against LSU with a Louisiana kid. So, and then, of course, with Colton Vosick, if they want to get him to flip from OU, they're going to have to impress, right? So,
yeah, I mean, it's going to be, it will be very interesting to see how Sark manages this season. Does he finally learn his lessons? Does he because, we broke down your game last week on Sunday, and I did that, and I think you did it too, we hardly ever look at, I don't read anything post game because I just want to give our take on it, like what we saw. At least that's how I've been doing it.
Yeah.
And our take was everybody else's take. Like, it was not hard to figure out what went wrong in that game. He threw the ball too damn much and ran the ball too damn little. Like,
correct.
Period. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows it. Everybody saw it. Will he be able to see that and adjust his game plans in these last 4 games?
I certainly hope so, because it's all on him at this point, right? It's all on him. My thing is this Kansas State game, man. Going on the road right now, you can't trust them on the road right now. You just can't.
In the last 4 games, not talking about injury, just talking about performance and play in the next 4 games, is there what are the odds that Hudson Card sees the field for significant minutes? Minutes where the game is in the balance.
No, I don't.
Less than 10%, less than 5%. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Even
because
though
that was going to happen, it would have happened on Saturday.
Well, but this is my question though, right? Because does he learn that lesson now, though? Does he learn that lesson and say, I need to have a shorter leash on Quinn? If he doesn't have it after seeing the game play out, is he going to have a shorter leash on him now? Or are you saying this was the decision long ago? They're going with Quinn Ewers.
It just seems that way. That's the vibe I'm getting from him is Quinn is a guy. Quinn is a guy. Now, look, if he comes out and he has 4 interceptions in the first half against K-State or TCU, then you kind of almost have to, right?
But that's what I'm asking you. Is that going to happen, you think?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think if Texas can finish 3-1 and get to where you said, that's movement in the right direction. And it's really movement in the right direction for the first time since 2018.
Yeah, since 2018. Yeah. I mean, after a 5-7 season last year, here's what's crazy about it, right? Like, there's still a chance that they can, finish with a great record, or they can still literally finish 5-7 like they did last year. And what I believe you picked them to finish before this season.
I did pick them to finish 5-7. I would love to go back and I might have to go back and watch that show and see what I picked. I actually had y'all beating Kansas. I know that. We thought Baylor was going to be a lot better this year.
Yeah.
Baylor, though, is still proving to be a really tough out.
Exactly. Yeah, and they will be every week here.
And
There's
I think
no easy games in the conference.
I think I had them beating K-State.
I have this somewhere. I'm going to try to find it real quick. But keep talking.
What's that? What are you looking at?
Our picks for the season. Our
Oh
game
yeah,
by
yeah,
game.
because you made like
I have them.
you made like a fancy graphic for it, right?
I did. Yeah.
So let's just look at the last 4 games. Forget everything else that's happened. What were our predictions for the last 4 games for Texas?
Here's what you had.
Okay.
You had Texas losing to K-State.
Okay, that makes sense. That still makes sense today.
Beating TCU. You had them beating Kansas.
Okay.
And then losing to Baylor. So you have them going 2-2 down the stretch.
I am going to keep the 2-2. I'm going to trade out. They're going to lose to TCU.
Okay.
And beat Baylor at home.
So you have them losing the 2 road games.
Losing the 2 road games. Well, no. They're going to, losing.
You have them losing K-State, losing to TCU.
Correct. And beating Kansas, beating Baylor at home.
Okay. Here's what I had. I had them beating K-State.
Wow.
I had them losing to TCU. I had them beating Kansas and losing to Baylor.
So you have them at 2-2. Would you make any change to that as you look at it?
No.
You still think they can beat TCU?
Well, the 2-2 part.
Right. Yeah. See, that's the thing.
That.
Which you got to swap that TCU game, right? Or
yeah,
do you think they'd find some?
No. I don't think so, man. They're too explosive, man.
Something's got to happen to Duggan. Something would have to happen to Duggan.
Yeah. And then, I mean, Chandler Morris is no slouch either.
No.
Right? I mean, he won the job to start the season.
Yeah.
Right? I think we have to remind ourselves of that.
Man,
I will swap TCU and Baylor.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's
TCU and beat Baylor.
I think there's a scenario. Baylor is a tough out, but they're definitely not unbeatable, and you get them at home.
I think Texas matches up pretty well to what they like to do. For the record, every one of my predictions except the Texas Tech game, that's the only one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're 7-1 on your predictions.
Yeah.
That's a lot better than our picks have been.
Oh, I know. Seriously. And when it comes to OU, I mean, our picks have just been a complete disaster.
Yeah, I picked I picked an undefeated season, and
you picked an undefeated season,
and we're 4-3.
I only picked y'all to lose twice. Texas lost, and I picked y'all to lose to Baylor. That's it.
Wow. Well, we suck. Kevin, enjoy the bye week. You're going to enjoy it. I loved my bye week. I can already feel the anxiety building back up in my heart as we get closer to Saturday.
Yes.
So you just enjoy having this week off. Just relax, kick your feet up. And on the other end, I need these Sooners. BV, I know you're listening. Get the boys ready to go. Get up to Ames. Come off this bye week. Knock them in the mouth early. Let's put them out early so they don't even have any hope left. Get that crowd quiet, and let's just go ahead and beat them by a couple touchdowns and be done with this thing. Kevin, we'll see you on Sunday. Boomer.
Sure, hook 'em.